For tuning in to our web exclusive, I'm Kelly Sullivan, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. President Obama announcing this week the plan for the eventual troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. It's a 2-year withdrawal?
Well, it's a 2-year. We knew this some time ago. On the end of this year, this calendar year, he'll bring it down to about 10,000 troops, and by the end of 2016, he'll bring it down to just the residual force, something basically to support the embassy within Afghanistan, basically the same thing we have in Iraq right now. The concern is obviously whatever troops are left need to have the logistics and security force protection. And that's always been a consideration, as will be the case now. In addition to that, Kelly, we announced several weeks ago that there would be a significant force reduction across the military. That will undoubtedly have an effect here in Rhode Island.
And how so?
Because the force structure, it's the mix of the force. You have active duty, you have reserve components. And the majority part of the reserve component is the National Guard. So there will be a force reduction, meaning that we could, in fact, see a significant force reduction in the form of force structure, meaning numbers of troops we have in Rhode Island, as was the case several years ago when we lost about 600 positions. I'm not sure it would be that significant this time, but there will be an effect. We need to understand, too, that when you take a force down, those active duty soldiers come home. And the challenge is going to be to make sure that they have jobs.
Obviously, and that's a concern. Also a concern that we've unfortunately been dealing with, the VA hospitals. Just some memos revealing new information, some startling information, really. 115 days, some veterans having to wait before being seen, before getting some medical care.
You know, your observation is right on. The 115 days is reality, and it's accurate as far as the real world is concerned. The memos, however, have uncovered cover-ups, if you will, looking at making fake appointments, looking at double sets of books to demonstrate that, okay, we're right on target, but in reality they're not, especially in the primary care area. Specialty fields equally is important. And therein lies the concern that perhaps some troops have actually lost their lives because of inadequate care or timely care. They're yet to determine that actually, but if you look at Phoenix, which is what somewhat of the focus point for this whole investigation, there was some real concern that troops needing care didn't get it for several years at a time. That's a major concern. The good story, however, is Providence, as we looked into it, and I think you and I talked about that earlier, would suggest, and rightly so, that Providence is right on target. They do have a slight backlog in the primary care area, but their solution to it is to bring in additional staff and fund it more adequately. And so I talked to Ms. McKenzie, who's the director at Providence VA, and I'm satisfied that Rhode Island is right on target, so the people of the state should be proud.
Yeah, and they've already done their checks. I know Representative Cicilline was asking to make sure that they went through and made sure, and they did, so everything looking like it's going well here in Providence locally. So some good news. Also some interesting and some good news about this traveling Vietnam wall that's headed to our area next week, right?
Yep. Next week it's coming into Cardi Furniture next Wednesday. And from there it goes to India Point Park. The host for this is the Operation Stand Down organization, which I am a board member. But Eric Wallen was on the roadshow this morning and talked about the importance of that. It's an 80% replica of the real wall in D.C., and it has on about 290 Rhode Islanders that lost their lives in Vietnam. But if you haven't seen the real one, it's as close to that as you can possibly get. Very impressive, and certainly recommend that people get to Indian Point from next next Wednesday actually, all the way through next Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that, and it's something that people should really take advantage of.
Absolutely, really impressive to see. And as you mentioned, 80% of the actual size in Washington, D.C., but it's still amazing just to see all the names on the wall. They're very impressive and very important to stop by and honor those who lost their lives.
You know, if you've seen the real one, and each of us have seen that, maybe not in person, but this, when the wars first started, it was very small, and then built up to a crescendo and then back down, and that's exactly what we'll see.
All right, well, thank you so much, and thanks for joining us.